How do Democrats, and frankly, how does legacy media need to change the way it thinks about getting information? I mean, a lot of the voters who went out and voted for Donald Trump, that so many people are wondering what happened here, they're not watching, frankly, this show. They're not reading the New York Times. They're not consuming media that way. And
it seems that's the case. Yes, and this is true to an extent that it was previously unknown.
Trump campaign found those voters where they live. So how do Democrats need to change the way they communicate to voters, if you think that's part of the problem?
Off.
For sure. I mean, I think all of us have to come to grips with legacy media is just not as important as it thinks it is.
Fucking based. Oh my God. Is there a better way that you could say it? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yep. That's the truth. I think that a lot of people have grown to be very resentful of legacy media. I think that it's like very popular to hate on Fox News, like, for example, because like they can be very blatant with their biases. But I actually think that all legacy media is completely biased and totally corrupt. I find all of them to be bad. And also, by the way, I think that in a lot of cases, the media for like alternative media is also biased, but the difference is that alternative media presents itself as a bias, whereas legacy media presents itself oftentimes as we're journalists, we don't have political opinions, we just tell you the facts. By the way, here's our propaganda. That's the issue. You know, old people still watch legacy media? Well, yeah, but what happens with old people?
It is to you, it is to me. That's a relatively small group of people who rely on us for their information. And you have to go into the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And
that's holy shit. Yeah, exactly. So, wow.
Basically, the way people get information has shattered into 20, 30 different pieces.
Well, the reason why people aren't using legacy media is because people don't trust legacy media. Because legacy media has misrepresented so many things to where the accountability, or like not really accountability, but like the credibility is totally destroyed. And so because they don't have any credibility anymore, why would anybody watch them? It really just makes sense.
And so if you just look empirically at the numbers, Joe Rogan's more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience.
The guy sighing in the background
has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience.
And he's right, though, right? He's absolutely accurate. And I find it to be kind of funny. Season Cope, yeah, they're fucking pissed. And it's like, I would be mad if I was them too. But the thing is that, like, I think the problem is that there is such a tremendous amount of inauthenticity from legacy media that why would anybody trust them? And I think also, like, they take themselves very, very seriously.
That listens to his every word. So maybe listen to Joe Rogan and kind of understand, like, what is he talking about? What are the guests that he has on? What are the issues that they care about? Realize that
and I think also, like, so when you think about like Comcast owns a media company as a strategic goal, because this media company can help Comcast align itself better with achieving political goals. So the reason why I think a lot of these media companies are going to be losing a lot of valuation now is because it's very evident that many of these media companies were very outspoken and very against Trump. So if you have this machine and the machine is made to do something and you use the machine and it doesn't work, what does that make your machine? It makes it less valuable. And I think that's what's happened. Is that now this machine and the use case of the machine is now put into question. And so whereas previously being able to control and have ownership of these platforms would more or less guarantee you a foothold or at least a platform where you could establish some degree of political control. If you can't own that political control, then what value do these companies bring? What do these companies do? Nothing. And so, of course, why would they have any value? Do you think they're now the new Fox? Well, what I'm saying is that all news companies are owned by people that the news company is going to act in its best in those people who own them in their best interest. That's my point. So the value of owning a news company or a news station is, of course, yeah, you can make money with it, But on top of that, it gives you a form of power. But if that power is called into question because it was exercised and then ineffective, then the value of the company is less. You see kind of how this comes together? Comcast isn't calling the shots, let's be real. Well, somebody is. The moment the news companies started pushing an agenda and not reporting unbiased news, they should have been taken off the air. It's impossible to do that, realistically. Don't forget, all these companies are funded by pharmaceutical companies advertising on them, and they're about to theoretically go away when Trump takes office. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Is like these news companies, they have a vested interest in things going a certain way because of pharmaceuticals or anything else. And also just the people that own them, their best interest of the people that own them. So if you have a time where this big legacy media company gets outplayed by Joe Rogan, Baldy in his basement in Austin, Texas, well, then why the fuck did you spend $10 million on this just to lose?
Gravity of right-wing discourse is now taking place on X. It's not Fox. X is what matters. Elon Musk is now, I wrote about this yesterday.
Fox fell off when they got rid of Tucker Carlson. I think that's what happened, is that I think that they lost the trust of a lot of like grassroots Republican conservatives when they got rid of Tucker Carlson. And like, I'm not even saying that it was a bad decision to get rid of him. I think they had to get rid of him because of that lawsuit, right? But at the end of the day, that's what the effect was. And as soon as that happened, I think that they lost a lot of credit. I never, actually, I don't say never, but like, I feel like Tucker Carlson used to be like 80% of the clips that I would see about Fox News. And like now, every once in a while, I see like a Sean Hannity clip. Other than that, I basically never hear about Fox News anymore. So yeah, they had to walk their talk. Sure, right? But I'm saying like that's the outcome of it. There's a video explaining exactly this. It's compared German legacy media. Yeah, I don't know about German media, though. I'm not sure about that.
Arguably the most powerful civilian in the history of the country.
Right,
he controls it. It's not Fox. X is what matters.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is now, I wrote about this yesterday, arguably the most powerful civilian in the history of the country. He controls
J.D. Rockefeller, maybe, but like I could see that. I mean, he obviously, Elon Musk has a massive amount of power. It's true.
Information flow. He controls multiple businesses. He has the president's ear. He's going to be in charge of some newfangled organization to gut government spending. We've not seen a person with that kind of clout across those sectors. But
I think that we can say that we haven't seen a person with that kind of clout that's as well and openly like stated to be like that. Because people are coming up with examples like George Soros or like, you know, Rothschilds or something like that. But like a lot of those people, you know, they operate in the shadows. Whereas like with Elon Musk, he just comes out and he's like, yeah, you know, we're trying to make this happen.
Where's real power comes from is X. People thought he was an idiot when he bought X because he lost a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. And now he happens to have the most powerful platform.
Man, there's somebody that got really mad at me for saying that.
On the right. And politics is downstream from information. And there's just a whole...
The actual quote is from Culture, but, you know, you could say they're the same thing. Sure.
Whole new information ecosystem out there. So for us, for you, for Democrats, for Republicans, you have to understand that you now are going to have to basically navigate 20 or 30 different parts of the ecosystem if you want to connect with the American people who vote.
Damn, what are they having, a Zoom call for a support group about getting all fucking fired? Holy shit, look at them all. That sucks, man. Ooh, not so good. Fake news media. There it is. MSNBC ratings have cratered 50% since the election. Oh my fucking God. Give me the latest on this. MSNBC viewership drops. Oh my. Wow. Comcast put MSNBC and Oprah founded Oxygen. Oh, I remember Oxygen. Was that for women? Yeah, I feel like that was for women in like the late 90s or the 2000s. It's probably catching up to them. Layoff includes top stars. Maybe they can take a lesson from Don Lemon on what not to do. Yeah, true. Interesting. Comcast is putting MSNBC up for sale. CNN also announced massive layoffs coming potentially. The times are changing. Well, and this is like, remember what I said before about how like games media and like games journalism is like a mining canary for like what's going to happen with all journalism? Is because like Now you don't need this like massive structure to communicate information anymore. You don't need that anymore. You just need a camera and a fucking an internet connection. That's it. And so now, and also mono opinion, I think people are tired of hearing, basically, like, people are looking for opinions that are, let's say, God damn it, give me a minute. Let's say here and onward, but legacy media may only present opinions that are inside of this little square. And so what's happening is that as people are looking for opinions that are outside of what's presented in mainstream media, they're going to places that are outside of mainstream media. And so instead of looking at Fox News or, like, let's say watching MSNBC, I bet there's a lot of people. This is actually, I think, what happens. I bet there are a lot of people who, instead of watching like local, or not local, but like, mainstream liberal media, a lot of them probably go and they watch Hassan because they're like, you know what? This guy represents what I believe closer than what the media does. Why? Well, because they agree with him. And so it's simple. And they agree with him more than they agree with the legacy media. So what I think happens is the same thing with also right-wing people, is that they might not necessarily agree with Fox News, but they might really like Tucker Carlson. So what do? Well, they go even farther and they find him on these edges. And the issue is that the companies are making all of this fucking money, but they're really providing a very narrow viewpoint on the way things are. So, and I understand I mentioned Hassan, so people want to get mad about it, but I'm just using him as an example, okay? Like, hopefully you guys can understand that. Like, I'm using him as an example. Like, there's plenty of other guys that do commentary. Like, fuck, Central Committee. There are people probably that watch him because they don't trust mainstream media, so they're going to watch this guy instead. It's a very simple idea. Don't get too caught up on the individuals, right? And also people that watch, I hope they're not watching me for this kind of stuff, but the fact is that a lot of people have. If I look at the amount of people that have been watching a lot of these videos for the election and stuff and like different political stuff, it's been a crazy amount of fucking people. It's been insane. I think this is going to keep happening. And also another big factor is that the amount of people that are watching mainstream media has probably gone down even more than it was 10 years ago. And I think that because COVID, this is kind of what I think happened, is that COVID fast-tracked people's connection to the internet. And so because of that, you had effectively tons of people that were like the remnant legacy media watchers that were kind of forced onto the internet and onto digital platforms. And in a digital marketplace where there's no like advantage of, you have a TV channel and the other person doesn't, or they're on the access channel for an hour a day and, you're, 24/7 broadcasting an entire channel. Guess what? These people are going to come out ahead because they more accurately represent the viewpoints that other people have. So who watches TV anymore? Well, and also it's true as well. It's kind of a morbid thing, but TV watchers are oftentimes older people. And what do older people do? They die. And so they're dying. Literally, legacy media is dying. And so you're seeing less and less people that have been brought up to turn on the television to find what the news is. And so, yeah, they're dead. And so guess what happens? Now there's way less people that are doing it. And even older people now, like you saw this with like QAnon, for example, older people, I would have never imagined in a million fucking years that there would be a huge contingency of fucking boomers sitting there reading 4chan posts about Donald Trump being the president. It's crazy. But like somehow they became 4chan users. Yeah, exactly. And so don't die. So I'm trying not to, right? But all I'm really trying to get to is that a lot of stuff died during COVID too. Yeah, exactly. And so, well, COVID moved a lot of people into digital spaces. And in those digital spaces, people like Joe Rogan were more successful because people feel like, in general, I think, a 3-hour conversation that Joe Rogan has with Donald Trump is going to be more insightful into who Donald Trump is as a person versus a 5-minute interview with Kamala Harris that's edited or with Trump that's edited. That's the reason why. And so people are looking for that authenticity because people usually look for news because they're looking for a way to like figure out what's actually happening. Is this true or not? And if it is true, then big fucking surprise, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to pay attention to this more. Even Harris went off Howard Stern. Yeah, I don't know. Of Howard Stern? Yeah, I don't know exactly. Or Theo Vaughn. Well, and you saw this before, and here's another big component to it as well. Joe Rogan even talked about this. This is like kind of a while ago. So he's talking about why Kamala Harris podcast didn't happen. We'll go ahead and mute this real quick so you guys can listen to it.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Look at this.
You guys are coming here. I'm like, I love these guys so much. Too bad. It's just there's nothing going on.
Well, I heard you might have needed to cancel on us to get Kamala Harris on.
I was not going to do that. I would have had to. I knew you guys flew from England, and I wasn't going to cancel on you because she had an opportunity to come in. You could look at this and you say, oh, you're being a diva.
Do you remember how everybody was talking down on Joe Rogan? Like, oh, you think you're too good for the presidential candidate? Well, apparently he was. It's crazy, huh? How about that?
But she had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invitation. I said, anytime. I said, if she's done at 10 o'clock, we'll come back here at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I go, I'll do it at 9 in the morning. I'll do it at 10 p.m. I'll do it at midnight. She's up. She wants to, drink a Red Bull, fucking party on.
Yeah, but I think this idea that you're being a diva is silly because you're offering her the opportunity to do exactly what the other candidate did, right?
Yeah. Well, she actually reached out when she found out that he was coming on. So their camp.
Of course. Of course.
Reached out to me. So I said, great, I would love to talk to her. But it was very difficult to tie it down, and they wanted to travel. And see, the thing is, like, you can't, if I go somewhere, then there's going to be other people in the room.
Yeah.
And they want to control a lot of things, I'm sure, according to the Brett Breyer interview on Fox. Like, people were waving them off. That's a distraction. People in the room, like, my whole goal with her.
See, this is the reason why people don't trust legacy media. It's like all of these, like, people in the background off camera. Oh, yeah, like, what is this? People don't want to deal with that. They don't want to see that. The more sensational the news, the acting crazy behavior is more money. Yeah, sure. Are you okay with a single podcast guy having power to decide for a country? Here's a better question. Am I more okay with a single podcast guy having power to decide an election instead of a handful of guys that are nameless billionaires that also are doing the same thing? Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same. You're trading one overlord for another. It's his show. Yeah. So, like, it's a false premise because the implication is that that's not what's happening right now, and it in fact is. He didn't decide anything. And also, yeah, that's a very good point, is that the voters are the ones who decide. Fundamentally, they're the ones who decide. And it's that the voters are choosing to listen to a person who they think is more authentic. So it's not Joe Rogan making the decision. It's people that are watching Joe Rogan that empower him to make that decision. It's like a primal in Final Fantasy.
And with him, it's just talk. Just have a conversation like a human being. You find out things about people. You get a sense of them, at least, a real sense. That was it. I don't give a fuck what we talk about. I really don't. I just want to talk to you. Who the fuck are you?
Do you think they think that you're on his side and they're more wary of you?
I don't.
I think so. I think that's it. If I were them, I would be wary of that. I think they'd be stupid if they weren't. Honestly.
No, I mean, there's just because of my appearance, there's always been this assumption that I'm some right-wing MAGA guy, which is
white, bald. Oh, say no more.
I was a Bernie supporter. I am not. I'm a politically homeless person for sure. You know, I always considered myself a left-wing person. I never thought I would ever vote right-wing. But then
I think that's the way a lot of people have had happen. Like, I've had friends of mine that were like these are people. Who was I fucking talking to about this? Fuck. It was like a real life friend because we were like driving somewhere, and so like, but I don't remember exactly. But anyway, I had friends of mine that I sat with them and I watched the Obama inauguration with them together. I remember this so clearly because we had a class, like we had just got in to college and class ended at like 10 and we drove home back to my house and we all sat at my house watching the inauguration, right? And it was such a big fucking deal. And so those same people now are like, yeah, I don't know about like all this identity stuff. Like, what is non-binary? This is weird. Like, what's going on? And I think that's what's really happened is that a lot of people that like, you know, self-identified, you can debate whether you think they are or not, but these people self-identify as a liberal, feel like they're getting pushed away from identity politics. That's what's happened. A bunch of 20-somethings turning into 30-somethings. It's called... So you think it's actually just us becoming more mature? I don't know, man. I really don't think that's the reason. But that's funny, though. It's definitely funny.
The tides of culture shifted in a very bizarre way. Yeah. And it just made me, over time, much more aware of what this stuff is really all about. Because what this stuff is really all about is just these natural human behavior patterns and these tribal instincts that we have. And it overpowers all discussions. It overpowers what's good for the collective group. Mm-hmm. It overpowers everything. It's just people pick a fucking team, and then whatever that team says, they can do no harm.
Now, I think that's a really great point. I think he's really talking sense here, guys. Yeah, bro, Joe is cooking. Man, yeah, true.
They will do their best to marginalize the horrible effects of the furthest extreme version of that, whether it's Antifa or the Proud Boys. They'll minimalize the... It's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. If you look at what's going on with the liberals right now, so progressives they want the war in Ukraine to be funded. They want to censor speech online.
That's why it's the most famous podcast ever. Well, it's because a lot of people, see, here's the issue, is that, like, while extremist politics has kind of become the norm, the other problem that's happened is that in the process of extremist politics becoming the norm, what's ended up happening is that it's alienated so many people that all of those people that are now, you know, like what he was saying, like politically homeless, all of those people now are watching Joe Rogan. Now they're like, you know what? Like, I don't want to watch Fox News. I don't want to watch MSNBC. Both of these places don't represent me. They're both giving what I think is a biased take on things, and I'm going to start watching this instead. You think people are being pushed to an island somewhere towards the middle? I actually think that most people are towards the middle. Most people, I think, are primarily like kind of more libertarian. That's what I would really, that's my genuine belief. They don't really care about a lot of social issues as long as they don't affect them. They want to have, you know, they want to keep a lot of their money from taxes. They want to have minimal government intervention unless it's something that they have a problem with, like, for example, like food, etc., that I think most people are okay with. That's what I think like 80% of people are. Maybe even higher than that. They don't want to have, like, they don't want to hear about like some identity issue. They don't care about that. Doesn't have anything to do with them. They want to hear about like problems that are affecting them directly and how those problems are going to be solved. And I don't think that like like gay people, like different races of people, different religions of people, all of these things are like imaginary issues for like 90% of people. These issues might get magnified in media, but the truth is that most people are of the live and let live type. And even in terms of history, if you look at it, there have been many cases of like societies existing with like different groups of people all in the society at the same time. And the way that it works is that they just don't fucking deal with each other. They ignore each other and it's not a problem. So if you can just ignore these people and you don't get pushed with them, then it's not going to be an issue at all. Left and right should balance each other. Yeah. And I think that's actually where most people stand. They don't really, they are very socially liberal to the extent that it does not affect them. And I think that people are also socially conservative to the extent that they don't get taxed a lot of their money. And it goes about like what I was saying before is like, I think most people's politics are just basically what's in their best interest.
And they want to give the World Health Organization, which is deeply influenced by Big Pharma, including the FDA, deeply influenced, the revolving door between the FDA and pharmaceutical drug companies.
I think that he brings up a good point here. I'm pausing a lot, sorry. The reason why, I think COVID did, in my opinion, irreparable damage between like the people's trust of not only the media, but also the government. It was so fucking damaging the way that COVID was handled that it's so bad. How come? Well, so this is the reason why. It's that there were things that were stated, like, for example, like Biden saying, if you get the vaccine, you won't get COVID or something like that. If the president says that and then it turns out to not be true, people are going to think that they got the vaccine for no reason and they're going to be angry about it. And it was 2 weeks to stop the spread. It didn't happen. And I think that there was, and also like, here's another really big component to it as well. Did he say that? Yeah. So it's because they all did. Exactly. Fauci said that bullshit too. Well, yeah. And basically that happened. And the big issue wasn't that they were saying it. That is not the problem. The problem was that they were saying it and then they were enforcing people to believe it. And it was like the mandate for the vaccines, which was the problem. The COVID vaccine was fine. It's the fact that people felt like they had to get it for like a job. They lost their jobs. It fucked up their life. Somebody gets banned. Like, you can question what, like, was September 11th an inside job? You can question, oh, wow, was October 7th, like, did Mossad know about it? Like, a lot of these, like, weird, like, conspiracy things, like, was JFK, like actually killed by the government? You can question all of this stuff, right? But you weren't able to question COVID. I think that damaged a lot of people's trust. And I think it did so in an irreparable way. And the way that I'm saying this, I hope you guys understand, I can see why they did it. I can see why it was a bad idea. I'm not trying to advocate that like, oh, wow, COVID didn't actually happen or anything like that. What I'm saying is that these actions, this is the direct result of these actions. And this is how people perceived it. Like I'm asked, I don't think they knew, but there were signs. It doesn't matter whether they knew or not. The point is that people want the ability to discuss things. And if people can't discuss things, they're going to think that it's rigged. Do you think the lady won a lawsuit of $12 million because she lost her job because she refused COVID shot? No, I didn't see that. But I'm sure something like that has happened. But yeah, I think COVID was like a huge turning point where like a lot of trust for the media totally went down. And the government.
And they want to give them control over what we take and what we don't take. That's crazy. And that doesn't make sense because that's not what the liberals were when I was a kid. My parents were hippies. You know, we lived in San Francisco during the Vietnam War. My parents were like straight up hippies. That's how I was raised. And so for me, it was always like the liberals were the ones who wanted education and open-mindedness. The liberals who were the ones with the ACLU let the Nazis talk and let them have a rally. They said you can't infringe.
Yeah, this is actually true. This is a good point. Is that the ACLU was less politically like captured, maybe like even 10 years ago. And that's the problem is like, and that's the American Civil Liberties Union. But I think that after, I would say probably like after Donald Trump and then after like COVID, I think that they got so ideologically captured that we lost a really important resource. Having a resource like the ACLU is like crucial to maintaining like the ability for people to have the right to free speech. And so the fact that they got, I think, like kind of ideologically captured it's a loss to everybody. It's a very bad thing that that happened.
On people's free speech, because if you infringe on the speech of people that you disagree with, you're being a fucking hypocrite. You got to. The only solution to bad speech is better speech. We've always known that. But when they had the power over social media and these collective groups of people,
See, he fucking knows. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy how everybody fucking knows this is what happened. But somehow people are like, media is trying to pretend like that's not what happened. That's 100% what happened.
that all had the same ideology, and then that tribal mentality kicks in, and you lose the perspective that you should have as an educated person that recognizes that everyone.
I don't think that it's only tribal mentality. I think that if you look back in history, you know, it's like what I said earlier, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. A lot of the worst things in history were done by people who thought that they were the hero. Very rarely in history are there people who know that they're the villain and they're like, I am Dio Brando. I'm a devil and I'm a demon and I'm going to do whatever I can to make the world feel my pain. That's usually not what's happening.
Has to be able to talk, and we have to figure out who's right. And you might be wrong. You might be wrong, and you might be clinging to this idea that you're right, and you're going to do the whole thing a terrible disservice.
Yep. I think that her not going on Joe Rogan was a massive fucking mistake. Like, gigantic mistake. Yeah, it only happens in video games, right? Well, what I'm saying is, like, that's it. Hitler believed he did a good thing? Well, of course. I mean, there's Hitler. There's people like, like, let me think. Like, I think Stalin probably, too. Like, Lenin, I would assume. It seems like, I don't know. Like, I mean, you can come up with, like, 50. Like, when we put Japanese citizens, U.S. citizens, in internment camps in the 1940s, we thought that we were doing the right thing. Slavery used to actually be reinforced by religious doctrine. People would interpret religious doctrine in a way that would justify slavery. Still, yeah, no, I'm saying like it still is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like all the time. It's been people have been doing bad shit for you know what they've considered a good reason forever. Yeah, look at Manifest Destiny. There's another one, right? To watch the Dan Piers Morgan? No, I haven't seen that either. Can you explain? Well, I mean, is it really a lot to explain? I feel like it's actually very simple. It's people do a bad thing thinking that they're doing a good thing. Like it's extremely fucking simple. I don't know if there's really much else to say about it beyond that. But yeah, I'll look at like maybe one more of these and then we're going to probably move on and look at some other shit too. You're the baddies meme. But yeah, anyway, I think it's really no surprise that that legacy media is dying. And I think it's going to keep getting worse too. Like now that, and this is what happens in a lot of cases, is that as soon as things begin to go down, things start going down even faster, right? Like they start circling the drain. I got COVID, had no taste for over a month. I took 4 doses of the vaccine and I haven't been sick since then, not even flu. Even 4 years from now, my grandpa went to the hospital because of COVID. I'm not trying to argue about whether the vaccine was going to work or not. I'm not going to argue about this. Oh, wow. Was it good or not? Is the did the vaccine, is it good or not? That's not my point. My point is that the suppression of speaking about and having a conversation about it caused people to distrust the institutions that reinforced that suppression. It's very simple. It's not, this isn't an opinion. I feel like if you look at this, there's no way that that's not what's happening. CNN will axe top stars in layoffs. They'll see hundreds fired. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Wow. Anderson Cooper makes $20 million a year. That's crazy. Yeah, he's gone. I think what's happened is that now that like kind of people have seen that legacy media doesn't necessarily like work, the value is going down massively. And I wouldn't be surprised to, as soon as this starts happening, I think it is going to keep getting worse and worse and worse really fast. Yeah, hell yeah. But the mainstream media is dead? I think so. They're Pac-Manning out. Well, I feel like also there's going to be a lot of people that are going to stop paying attention to them because this is another big component. A lot of them were saying, I think it was at least on MSNBC, I had seen a bunch of different like things of them talking about like, oh, polling is showing this, polling is showing that. Well, if you constantly reference polls that turn out to be wrong, then that's going to affect your credibility. Well, people aren't going to trust you because you're saying the shit that didn't happen. It's not that it didn't work. It's that they know that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon aren't going to cater to their propaganda anymore. Yeah, I think that's also a pretty big component. Now the government and special interests are going to start paying off streamers to push their propaganda there. Absolutely. And this is another really big component. You should never listen to, like, for example, what I'm saying, or like Hassan or CatDany or anybody else, right? Like Joe Rogan, David Pakman, any of these people. You should never listen to anything that we're saying without taking it with a grain of salt. Because every single individual is going to be biased in one way or another. And you can't go and just listen to what people are saying without taking that into consideration. Yeah, everybody is going to have a bias.